Hi there, Isha here, and welcome to The Higher Life, where I take concepts that are considered esoteric, spiritual, and new agey, and show you how you can apply these in your life to create a truly empowered way of being in the world. Empowerment or personal empowerment is really the focus of this education, and it is my deepest desire that every single human being on the planet can access their own personal power in order to create a set of conditions in their personal life and in our world in which they can truly thrive. And when I say thrive, I mean that they can feel deeply loved and open to loving, and that their true inner unique essence nature can be expressed in their daily and somewhat ordinary life. And I say this because in our time in history, we tend to have a preoccupation, at least over I think the last 100 years, with the introduction of print media and technologies which help us access other people's lives. We've become extremely and almost obsessed with personal success or personal power, being a successful human being. And that successful human being is someone who either has a great influence over others through the way they show up in their world, through their capacity to engage with other people and have them see the world through their viewpoint, or through being able to take a particular gift or talent that they're born with to a level of excellence in which other people can admire and appreciate and engage with the output, I guess one could say, of this person's creative talents. That has really been the model of success. And I think in America, which leads our entertainment industry, this is the kind of success that Americans celebrate. And as they dominate the world in this area, the rest of us also have been drawn into really feeling compelled to live in a particular way or to see success as this model where you are a unique human being, you have a particular talent or skill, and you take it to a level where other people engage, recognize, and admire and pay for it. And this is the big thing, right? You want to make money and be wealthy and have choice in your life. This is a story that we all know very well. And being a mother of young children, I often feel a certain amount of doubt as to the validity of this type of success model and whether this is really the highest potential of a human being. Not that I doubt the wonderful success that individuals that live this way have managed to achieve in their lives. And I think as a society, we tend to use our doubt about the validity of this type of success model to fuel a lot of negative thinking around particular people that are living like this and have this type of influence in the world. And this is something that we need to be able to truly unpack and understand if we want to live in a truly empowered way. So as Taylor Swift is in town in Singapore this week, and the Taylor Swift phenomena, I like to call it Taylor spirit, has been a really major focus of conversations, not only in the entertainment world, but in the academic world. People are really curious as to what is happening right now. You have this lovely human being, as she seems to present herself through the interviews that you watch. But we are all human beings. We are just flawed in many ways. Like every human being, there is no perfect person out there that can live up to the expectations of the general public. And I do feel for people such as Taylor that do find themselves in positions in which through the way that their talent has manifested in the world and the way their personalities are, they've attracted a lot of attention. And through this attention, they've managed to create an influential relationship between their talents or their gifts or their persona and the people that feel inspired by the work that they do. There is something beautiful when we see a really positive dynamic occur in this way. However, in history, we've seen people who have the same charisma, the same capacity to bring a vision into the world and to engage people in that vision whose outcomes haven't been so wonderful. There's Hitler, for example. Mahatma Gandhi is somebody who's used it in a positive way. But what we see is that human beings have a tendency to feel influenced by other human beings. And that is a dynamic of relationship that takes place that either empowers us as human beings or disempowers. So influence itself as a way of relating to another human being, we have reason to be cautious about these relationships, especially when it's our children, for example, feeling devoted to a movement or another human being or the work of another human being, and their way of being in the world being influenced. We see that in cult situations. Now, of course, I'm not relating Taylor Swift to cult situations. However, we do know that there is a kind of enormous movement taking place around her work. And that's why I call it Taylor Spirit. And how is this empowering in our lives? Well, when we talk about power as a vibration, what we start to see is that the way we use our creative energy in the world, the way that we view ourselves and how we choose to be and act and think and feel, it kind of feeds into a collective vibration. So for example, if we have a lot of negative news going on, or we have a lot of news that is showing us major wars, crises around the world, and that's all we are seeing, and we're really taking that in, our energy, our vibration, it goes, it becomes affected by the trauma that we are witnessing. Now, we're not in that trauma, we're not in that space where the war is happening to us, but we are experiencing at a physical and emotional and energetic level the similar kind of anxiety and terror that the people who are actually going through it would also be experiencing. This is the power of media, the power of being in relationship to events outside of ourselves or people outside of ourselves. Now, in the example of Taylor Swift, for example, or Taylor Spirit, what we see here is a person whose natural disposition is quite positive, whose work is very relatable. So the kind of songs that she's writing, we relate to the themes in those songs. It's creating a sense of shared experience, empathetically driven. So it's only natural that when a person who is born with a particular talent, who happens to be born into a particular system or environment where that talent has managed to get the support that it needs, a person who is born with a particular drive, and I'd need to do a whole other lesson on the fact that as human beings, some of us are born with a natural disposition or drive to market our work, for example, and others can be extremely talented. You can be born with a talent but not be born with that natural drive, which means that the way your talent manifests into the world and the attention it receives will be different to somebody who's born with a talent and the drive, that combination. In the coaching world, I equate that to Tony Robbins, for example. I've come across many supremely talented coaches and wise people who are not born with that natural marketing skill set like Tony is. So he's got this wonderful combination of the talent plus the natural business acumen and the natural understanding of how to bring that message out in a way that people will engage with it. It's a kind of wizardry, the same as Taylor. Is a person who is born with a coach who's operating purely out of talent but not with that marketing influence, less powerful than, say, Tony Robbins. In our collective world, we would think, yes, they're less powerful because they don't have as much influence. They're not engaging with people in really big ways and in really large numbers. But I would argue that they are equally powerful. We are equally powerful when we're operating in our simple, ordinary daily lives, because the level of vibration that we operate at is much more powerful than we realize. Our presence plays out in the world in a very different way than maybe a very invisible way, and it's not really acknowledged or understood by a larger audience. So we tend to fall into this idea that you're only as powerful as the people who are buying into or engaging with or supporting the message or the wisdom or the artwork that you're bringing out into the world. And we can already see that there's just so many ways that this is flawed. It would mean that only certain people in the world are blessed with power and the rest of us are victims. We don't have access to that power. And we see that playing out in other power dynamics, such as ISIS, for example, where you have this so-called supreme power, and then all the people or the followers that play in and follow that trajectory. So this relationship between believing that power is outside ourselves, whether it's a positive or a negative influence, and then falling under the influence of that power and feeling that it defines who you are, is where human beings tend to lose their sense of self in a larger phenomena. Now, when it plays out in a beautiful way, as we do see with the Taylor spirit, I like to call it, we see that our spirits are lifted. It speaks to our spirit in a really positive way. I know my daughter is just so positively, her vibration is really high when she's coming and telling me all the things that Taylor's doing this week. Now, I'm not a big music fan and naturally don't have a tendency to really be influenced by people or sources outside myself. I really do feel shaped by other people's teachings, but I just love the exuberance. I can see this wholeheartedness, this passion that is ignited in my daughter when she's talking about this particular phenomena. And it is a beautiful, positive thing to witness. And what I'd want to see her do is feel ignited and inspired, and then channel that back into her own personal expression. It becomes a source of energy in the world. When it becomes dangerous is when there's an over-identification that this person that I see as being so amazing, so wonderful, it's her as a person that is actually what I admire, and not the spirit of the message of the work that she is bringing forward. Because if we look at systemic intelligence, how the larger systemic intelligence works is it wants to raise the vibration of the whole planet, of the whole human collective. So it will naturally seek out human beings that are predispositioned through their skill set, through their relationship to drive, to other energy patterns, to find who is a person that this can be expressed through. And then that person will get that energy, and that energy will start to grow stronger and more powerful so that it can be manifested out into the world and benefit the whole human system. However, it's not that single human being that is godlike. It is that single human being is expressing through them a kind of godlike energy. And that energy speaks to all of us, and we all benefit from it. But we need to be able as human beings to discern between what is happening and the person that is being expressed through. Because when we don't, we start to hold that human being as on a pedestal. We put them on a pedestal and we think you're a human being who has to be higher and behave differently than all other human beings. And then we feel entitled to really pull that person down. And we've seen that happen to many beautiful human beings who've brought a really powerful message into the world, who've been asked or gifted to do that. They get attacked at a really personal level in a really nasty way on things that are just normal human tendencies. Every human being has a tendency to take or make choices that may not live up to other people's expectations, and they have a right to do that as a human being because it's their personal life. And we need to be allowed to live as human beings who are vulnerable and fragile and who are only working things out as we go. And if you have a big talent or a big message or a big spirit that plays out in the world, it's almost like people feel like they have permission to hold you above that. And the person themselves may feel that they have to hold themselves to a higher set of standards. And perhaps that's true when you've been gifted with a certain amount of influence. However, I think really that if we are going to evolve and expand and mature and become truly empowered as single human beings in a larger collective system, we have to see things as they are. We have to understand that human beings are sometimes blessed with the capacity to bring a higher message into the world, but they're simply messengers. And the work that they do is something that they find fulfilling. It's something that's gained energy, but it's bigger than their own drive or their own capacity to bring things forward. There is something happening through them. And if you listen to any really successful and self-reflective artist or any type of leader, they'll say, I always feel like there's something happening through me. I'm just creating. I'm just feeling the desire to lead, to guide, to be there for my fellow human beings in a way that I feel can lift their spirits. This is a really positive spiritual relationship that happens. And I'm all about understanding that our true power comes when we know that we are unique souls having a unique life experience, and that we are all in it together, and that what we really share and bond through is spiritual resilience. And sometimes we have people that come into the world who are able to lift our spirits through the work they do. And at the moment I'm going to call this the Taylor spirit, because that's what's happening right now. And it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. But we need to step back from seeing it as the single human being, either becoming over-identifying and holding this person as above the normal human being, almost godlike, and therefore becoming almost idealistic about this person, or really demonizing them. We only have a tendency to want to pull somebody down when we've given them too much power in the first place. We have to let influential human beings rise high, but know that what we're really feeding into is the vibrational pull of moving up rather than the human being themselves. Then we become truly empowered. Then we can really embrace and encourage and love the work that human beings that rise up and become very visible do, but also appreciate the deep, beautiful spiritual work that everyday human beings are doing in their everyday ordinary lives, such as nurses. I'm always going to come back to that. I have a deep appreciation for nurses. I've been in and out of hospital for different things over the years, more recently for breast cancer, which I'm still here recovering from. Won't be able to make it to the Taylor concert, but the idea is that there are people out there doing wonderful things that are really small and unrecognized, that have equal value in the world than the people that we can see that are very visible. My only distress in the world that is at the moment is that usually the very visible people make a lot of money doing what they're doing, and it doesn't channel back into the world. So if we do have a little bit of a discord here, that when you become very influential, you have access to a certain income source that nurses may never do. Is their work less valuable? And I think this still comes down to a dysfunction we have in our value system, in which money is seen as recognition for a person's talent. And perhaps one day we will have an economy that doesn't work that way. Perhaps eventually what will happen is we feed into raising a vibrational system, and that positive vibration is the new currency, rather than, if you're really talented and you have a natural drive and you're in a country in which that's appreciated, you can live this fabulous lifestyle. But if you have other talents that aren't valued in the same way, and you don't live in a cultural context which that value system allows for you to thrive financially, that you're less, that you're worse off. And in our current system, that is actually the reality. And that is why so many young people look to the stars, to the celebrities, and aspire to that life, because they want to experience that level of luxury, and they don't want to be a nurse, which is an equally valuable profession, because it doesn't pay as well, and it doesn't give you access to the lifestyle that we've been told is this uber luxury, hyper valued lifestyle. But there are many stars who've come forward, and many wealthy people who say it's not all it's cracked up to be. There's something to be said in the value of a small life lived well. I think that in the end, what we all want is that economy to come into the middle ground, and that we are all living in a really healthy way, financially, mentally, psychologically, spiritually. And maybe we'll have people rise up and be hugely influential, but we'll have an economy in which they're just living within the same realm as most people, and that money channels back and out into a different type of society. Who knows? Who knows what's coming? But I know that there are tribes of people around the world who are very curious and in deep contemplative space about what would be a fair economy. How do we deal with some talents being highly valued, and other skill sets which have value to the well-being of our spirit, of our collective communities, not being valued in that very economic way. These are questions and inquiries that do come up when we look at something like Taylor spirit or Taylor phenomena. People get curious about, what does this mean? Superfans, superstars, how is that going to play out in transforming the well-being, the collective consciousness of the whole of humanity? Because these people have been supported to rise up, and I do believe that that's a divine energy that plays out. The system is looking for people who are naturally dispositioned, who have the right attitude, who are able to influence and raise that vibration in a particular way. And sometimes the system finds the people who are best predispositioned to challenge us as a species, to call out our flawed aspects, towards hate and hatred and conflict and violence. We have to see that everything that we revere, we must also fear. Influence, we revere it, but then we must also fear it, because it can be equally positive as it can be harmful. We have to stop holding the human being that is manifesting as the source of that, therefore higher than, or the devil. We have to understand our basic tendency to be influenced by the outside forces and take ownership and be healthy and accountable for the way that we feel empowered by influences in our world, whoever they are. However, to conclude, I love the Taylor spirit. I love seeing my daughter feel enthusiastic and empowered and enlightened by the work of another human being. However, we do get into some arguments sometimes when I feel that maybe that's become losing herself in the process rather than being inspired by it. It's a fine dance. It's a discernment. We need to let go of looking at and analyzing the person and really getting back into understanding how we're responding to a phenomena, how it's empowering, but how it can also be disempowering. This is what empowerment is all about. It's about understanding the nature of power and how it works in a shadow, enmesh state, and how it works in a really powerful, enlightened state. That is the path of empowerment, moving from enmeshment to enlightenment. The correct use of our power, the correct use of our energy, the correct use of our adoration, one could say, or devotion. Devotion is a beautiful, beautiful human tendency, but it's powerful, and we need to know how to work with it in a really skillful way. Now, if you're curious about this, absolutely check out my work at Higher Life Academy, or watch some more episodes at higherlifetv, where I unpack lots of different aspects of our relationship to power. Sorry, I needed a bit of water today. I think it's been a few little hiccups here and there. Anyway, until next time, take care and love life.